with you because I love them.
Hey guys, we are
I have them in a box.
live.
Yay!
Woo. We are live with our guest author, Erin. Is it Beaty or Beaty or
It's Beaty.
Beaty?
But
Okay.
everyone says Beaty, so
Beaty.
it doesn't bother me.
Look at that cover!
Covers. I know. When I was
Beaty.
doing like the banners, I was like, ooh, it's like a gold yellowish rose. I'm like, we'll use that.
Yeah, these are some of my favorite ones. Erin, do you have the other ones in the series just so you can show everybody the fabulousness of this? Can you just show everybody? And they're shiny. I love these.
Oh, did you see? The spines are really pretty too.
Like this one just came in the mail.
Yeah, show the spines too. They're
Here, I got one.
They're some of the best covers ever. Look at the spines. They're like those old-fashioned gold embossed spines.
Well, this one, the first one, I must have gotten it from like a book box because I have like a signed book plate, but I guess it came with a tattoo, and I don't really use temporary tattoos because I have like real ones. So I like shoved it in the book.
Oh,
right? It's like it works.
I still have like 5 of those.
Right?
Well, you mentioned the foreign covers. Do you want me to grab them? They're in a box right here.
Yeah, I want to see the foreign covers because I've seen them online and they're so awesome. All of them.
Hold on, just a sec.
Foreign covers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got this massive box from Book Outlet. I was like,
was it the
never figure out which way
Erin,
these go.
was it the Polish ones that you just posted about?
Ooh.
I don't have any of the Polish ones yet, though.
Darn it! Oh, okay. You guys want some great covers?
So
this is the French one.
Oh.
And they translated the title into The Color of Lying or The Color of the Lie, which I like. It's got gold embossing and it's got like fancy chapter heads with scrolls there with that.
Nice.
Sorry, the sun is starting to shine in my room. The second one is the Scent of Treason. And the third one is The Taste of Danger.
Nice.
Oh, I
really like the whole thing.
Good. But you've got a whole bunch of different ones.
Yeah. So in Brazil, they went with like complementary colors.
That one before.
And then this is the second one. They call the second one the Treacherous Mission, and I don't have the third one yet, but it's purple and gold. And hold on, almost got it. And this is keep going the wrong way. This is the German one.
That's the bondage
which
cover.
Translates to trust and betrayal or trust and treason. Yeah, it's kind of this bondage thing, but it's pretty.
That, though. That's pretty.
And then the second one is Love and Lies. And I don't have the third one yet, but she's holding a key and it's called Passion and Peril. So
nice.
So I think that's all the ones I have. I loaned the Russian one out to one of my Russian friends.
In my bag.
Yeah, I love how different they all are.
Sending a kid off for
fun. Well, the Russian ones.
Those are so pretty.
Yeah, I got really lucky. So
can you read all those or not so much?
I can read the German one.
You can read the German.
Nice.
But mostly because I already know what it says.
That's cheating.
Well, I mean, sometimes I'll find if somebody posts a quote from the book in another language, I usually can tell enough to narrow it down to where it is, to what that particular quote is, just based on if it's a Romance language, it's easy because they all have the same Latin bases. So, and I'm a big word nerd.
So I think we should slow down and Erin, if you can summarize what your series is about for people that haven't.
Well, if I talk about the second and third, it starts to get really spoilery. So that's why I'll focus on the first in case people haven't read the first one. It's about a girl who lives in kind of a medieval society who they have a marriage system that's run by matchmakers. And there's a girl who's an orphan and she lives with her very rich uncle. And she really hates the idea of matchmaking, but he sends her to the matchmaker anyway. and she tries to do a good job, but she ends up failing. But what she ends up with is a job offer rather than a husband. And even though she despises the idea, she goes along with it because it gets her out of the house and away from her uncle. And so then she goes on a trip with her boss, with a bunch of specially selected brides to the capital city for a big marriage conference, basically. And her job is to blend in and kind of collect information on men they meet and also the girls they have with them to make good marriages for the future, because these matchmakers just watch everybody. So she's kind of her eyes and ears, and she ends up getting involved in an espionage plot and getting mixed up with a soldier whose job is basically the same, but with like military bent. He's gathering information, but not for marriage, but for tactics. And they kind of run into each other, and there's a whole lot of, they're both pretending to be something they're not. But the irony that I tried to put into it is that in pretending to be something, while they were in disguise, they were actually more free to be themselves. They didn't have to be something that other people wanted. And that was how they made a real personal connection. And then it goes bad.
So, it always does.
Well, it has to.
Right.
Because they're both hiding things from each other, even though they're being more honest with each other than in ways than they've been with other people. They are still hiding big secrets. And so, and then the next two are just their continuing adventures. And the second one, Sage, that's the main character. Sorry, I didn't mention that. She follows her beloved to on a special army mission, and then ends up fleeing when they get attacked, fleeing to another country that their country hasn't spoken to in several generations. So that's interesting. And so that's where that goes. And then the next one has to do with her being involved in a big peace conference, and then an assassination and all sorts of good stuff.
So there's a lot of military espionage in these books, and I loved how intricate it all was. And I'm thinking that you probably pulled some of your own knowledge about the military, because you have a military background, into these books.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I obviously don't know much about assassinations, at least that I'm allowed to talk about. And so it's kind of, most of what I put in there is basic tactics and basic leadership stuff. So I went to the Naval Academy, and then I worked in the fleet as a weapons officer for a few years, and then I was a leadership teacher. And I learned a lot of things the hard way. I learned how to keep your superiors informed of what you're doing. I learned that following orders is important. I learned that giving orders is really hard. And I learned that the best leaders set really high standards for themselves. And there's always this conflict of interest. And he ends up having this huge tug of war between her and his job. And it's not necessarily one of those things of like, I want to put her in an ivory tower and protect her and keep her from all harm, although there is a little bit of that. But it's really that he starts to fear having to make a choice between her and his job. And that's the real conflict in that. And I find that a whole lot more interesting than the whole, I just want to keep you safe. But he had to make that decision, or he almost had to make that decision. And he's just terrified that when it comes up again, that he's just going to let his men die because she's in trouble. So he just doesn't want that to be a possibility.
Right.
So that's his problem. And she's just pushy and stubborn and can't let things go. So that's where they start butting heads. But they really care about each other, so they make it work.
Yeah, this book has some very, it's extremely YA appropriate, yet, kind of like, I thought of Pride and Prejudice when I read this book, because Pride and Prejudice is an incredibly hot book, really, without being, I guess not appropriate for YA. This book, the romance and the chemistry in it is fantastic. I mean, it's really, really good. So that if people like romance, more in the vein of really YA appropriate, but really well done. I think you'd really enjoy this book. The other thing I really enjoyed about it was I feel like because you were in the military, I felt like there was a lot of accuracy to how you portrayed a military environment and also camaraderie between characters, and how they had to protect each other and help each other. I loved that about the book.
That's, I guess it's one of those things where you put in what you know. And as for the romance staying YA, well, I have teenagers, so I knew they were going to be reading it.
No, it's just very well done. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And it's really difficult to stay within certain boundaries because I know what I was like as a teenager and what I wanted. So
I think it takes more skill.
I gotta be honest.
Sometimes. Sorry, what are you gonna say?
I just have to be honest with the way teenagers are, but
Right.
But stay within my Catholic mother boundaries.
Well, our first writing question is why did you decide to make Sage so headstrong, as very headstrong within the very first chapters of the story?
Well, part of it is because she has a lot to learn. That those kind of characters make things happen, first of all. But then she's kind of immature. And I had a lot of readers be like, "Oh, she's so immature. I just want to smack her." I'm like, "Well, yeah, she's 16. That's the whole point. She needs to learn that other people are important and that the world is bigger than she actually realizes." So she hates this idea of arranged marriages, but she kind of has the whole wrong idea about it. They're all the matchmakers are actually very careful about what they do, and they take a lot of things into consideration. So there's also it's not spoilery because it's early on in the book, but the matchmaker basically reveals to Sage that I actually set up your parents. You think that they ran away from society and got eloped, but I kind of set them up. But I didn't get paid for that one, but
I remember.
So she has this whole idea that it's wrong, but then she has to get involved in doing it, and then she wants to do a good job, and she realizes, like I said, there's a whole lot more to the world. So headstrong characters are going to make things happen, and I don't know if it's a thing that I wish that I was like. I don't know. Sometimes she does things, and I'm like, why? I would never do that. I don't think, but I wonder if you could make a book about a timid character. It might be kind of hard. I mean, so your books, Lori, have a character who's timid, but she's got kind of this iron. She learns a lot, so she becomes bolder, and I guess Sage becomes softer.
I struggle with that. I keep making. I guess I keep making Erin too wimpy. I keep trying to. Well, it just seems to be. I don't know. I'm trying to do a character arc there, but
it's tough. And so in this next, I'm not trying to jump ahead, but in this next book that I'm writing, it's a really struggle for me to not make this main character exactly like Sage. I was like, she needs to be different. I was like, but she needs to be kind of bold, and she needs to be kind of pushy. And I was like, but not too bold, and bold in different ways. And so. Yeah, if they're not old people make things happen, or they're always where things are happening.
The new book that you're writing, the one that comes out next year, I'm curious if the world is very different from kind of almost the traditional fantasy world of the Traitor's Kiss.
Technology-wise, it's about the same. But when I actually pitched the idea to my publisher, I pitched it as a historical. Set in France in like the 1200s, and they were like, "This is great, but we want it to be fantasy." So I was like, "Okay, so it's 13th century France with magic, so it's different, but it's the same."
I'm extremely excited about the magic. Are you able to talk at all about that yet?
I can say a little bit. So the title is Blood and Moonlight. It's a slight change from what it was, but the reason Moonlight is in there is because the magic system is related to the moon and how it affects people. And also blood is heavily involved in their magic.
Oh, okay.
So so that works out. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I was telling you earlier that the original title was Whispers of Blood and Moonlight, but then they were reading my draft and they were like, this is too gritty for the word whispers. That's a soft word, so we're going to drop that. And I was like, okay.
So it's just Blood and Starlight now, or Blood and Moonlight?
Blood and Moonlight. So and so it's about a girl who's hunting a serial killer, and she's got the help of a guy who knows a whole lot more about serial killers than is normal, helping her, or she's helping him. And so then she's realizing that she has like this connection to this outcast community and these strange magical abilities and all of this. So she's going through a lot of confusion. But also the worst part for me is that I've had to research serial killers so much, and sometimes I write scenes and I have to sit in my office and just like not talk to people for a half hour after I'm done, because I'm just like, ew.
Right.
And I'm worried that my editors may think I'm way too good at it.
That's like everybody's been, when you first go into work, because I work at a used bookstore and they put stuff online. You have to go find all the stuff that people's purchased like the day before. And it's like, everybody's grabbing true crime. I'm like, of all the things you could read during quarantine, this is murder and mayhem is what everybody's reading.
That's what they're reading. All right.
Oh, good. Then I'm hitting something at a good time, I guess. I don't know.
It's crazy.
I think if I had a pick,
what was the most challenging thing to that you found out completing a series?
There's a lot of pressure in satisfying your fans. It got easier writing along the series because you start to realize how subjective a lot of the opinions are. So I said people that loved the first book but hated the second one, and I had people that loved the second one even better, and I had people that hated the third, and some people who said the third is their favorite. So I've learned to care a little bit less about that and just do my own thing, because I realize that I can't satisfy everyone. But one of the things I didn't like about writing a trilogy is that you have to maintain a certain level of conflict between the characters that I didn't really enjoy, and I felt some you have to struggle to make it so it's not like they're just fighting just to fight.
Right.
You have to give it a good reason. But I know a lot of people were really mad at Claire, who's Sage's best friend in the third book, and I thought that was a little unfair, because she's 16 years old, she's lost everything, and her best friend has everything that she's lost in her own life. So that's, of course, she's a bitch, you know. She's 16, and she's jealous of her best friend, but she feels like she's not allowed to be, you know? Yeah. So she's not bad. Everyone's like, she's so annoying. And I'm like, well, you were annoying when you were 16.
So do you think that your next series, since it's going to be a duology, do you think it's going to be a little bit easier to get through?
I hope so. And because I don't know if I could drag it out. That's the wrong word. I don't know if I could expand it beyond two steps in this particular relationship and what's going on. Although honestly, I almost don't know where I'm going, so I'm a little bit worried. But it usually works out. So I can see where the romantic arc will go. I just don't know what else is going to happen in the world. Sort of, obviously, more murder and magic, but.
So this one is just historical fantasy, or just historical fiction, right? Or historical romance?
No, it's just historical fantasy.
Oh, okay, so is there like a magic system or
with romance? And I guess like thriller kind of comes into it. And yeah, so they're stabbing more so than my previous books. I don't know. When I was pitching it, they were like, "This is what you're really good at," and that kind of worried me. But because no pressure. But then I'm like, I'm really good at making people kiss and making people hurt each other.
You only hurt the ones you love.
Can you I don't want to put that on a resume. So.
Oh, goodness. Well, let's see. We have a couple of comments over here. Of course, Allie says hello to everybody.
Hello.
And that she
Hi.
loved your book covers. And
I can't
Tammy
take credit, but
Withrow says that she is looking forward to the newest book. So am I. That sounds really
hi,
good.
Tammy. Well, I have everybody saying that, and that just like the pressure. That makes it hard to write too.
Let's be quiet.
No, it's okay. But then it's also going to be different from this trilogy. So then I worry that the people who think they're getting the same thing might be disappointed, or I don't know, disappointed is the right word. It's just like, oh no, this isn't what I was hoping for. People want more of the same, but then they want things that are different and new, and it's.
Yeah,
I don't know why I decided to write books, because this is hard.
It's hard.
It is really hard.
So do you think you'll ever like jump out of doing fantasy worlds and go do like a mainstream contemporary or something else?
I don't think I'll ever do contemporary, because I don't really understand the world right now. It's just whack. So, and I never really did. Like when I was in high school, I lived in books that were not set in the present time, or they were set in the future or fantastic. I never lived in my own time, basically. So I don't feel like I could actually write about it. I would love to do historical fiction. I mean, that was why I pitched this one that way. And I'm not disappointed with the way it's turned out. It's actually pretty cool. But I really have this urge to do like a nerdy Pride and Prejudice set in the 1800s. And I have it like all plotted out. And I'm just like, but I have to do all these other things first.
Please do that next. Please do that next.
Well, with all the stabby McStabby, you should maybe try horror or something.
I don't really like it. I mean, I like it in small doses. I don't like to spend 6 weeks straight like immersed in it. It gets old. So I mean, like I made a joke on Instagram a while ago. It was like, can I just write about puppies and rainbows next time, because this sucks.
Allie asks, what was your favorite scene to write, and was there a scene or character that caught you by surprise? Allie's always got all the questions.
I really did like the Lori says that scene. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The romantic breakthrough scene, and not just the kiss, although that was good. That was a lot of fun. But that was so much fun that I wrote it from his point of view, and you can actually find that on the Fierce Reads website. You go to my Twitter and my Facebook pages, it's like pinned to the top, the link to that, where you can read that whole scene from his point of view, which is a lot of fun.
I remember that. I remember that one.
It's an epic scene. Everybody that reads the book remembers that it's seared onto their minds.
I love his thoughts during it, and I wrote that because I wanted people to know what he was thinking at the time, and so that was fun. And then a character that surprised me in a scene that actually happened early on, when Sage goes to the matchmaker to apologize for basically screaming in her face, and that's when she gets her job offer. But at the time, when I went into it thinking that Sage was going to be kind of like the Cinderella character that the matchmaker would reluctantly hire, and everyone would look down on her. But then the matchmaker, like out of nowhere, looked at her and was like, dude, I set up your parents and I planned this whole thing, and now I want you to work for me. And I was like, that came out of left field, but I really liked it. So that surprised me. I have kittens. Sorry.
It's like, just ignore ignore all the noise in the background. I know I have like a stack of books there that I knocked over. It's like, yep, just ignore it. Pretend it didn't happen.
They're wrestling. So
can you pick them up and show them to us?
No, they're out of range. But if they get close, I will. So
it's like,
one of them, their names are Snickers and Doodle.
Aww.
And they're like this big. But they're litter mates, and he's such a wimp. When he can't find her, he starts crying.
Aw.
Time for school to start. So I hope my kids are signing on to Zoom. I just assume they are. They're pretty good about it. But
It's like everybody's
yeah, so
using
it's
that.
like 8:30 in the morning to me. So
Tomorrow. Don't forget, it's like
tomorrow, yes.
You're in the
I
future.
greet you from the future.
Yeah, so Erin's in Korea right now.
Yes, I am. And so we got a head start on all this COVID stuff. And I was saying the Americans have to keep their military members safe. So we haven't left the apartment since February, really, other than to go to Costco. And I go for runs, but that's it.
So what are you reading?
We have a book club here among the American spouses. And so we just read Educated and then The Mountains Sing. So they read a lot of adult contemporary stuff. So it's not usually my genre, but I need to talk to people. And I think it's good to branch out too. But when I'm drafting and even though I'm technically revising, I'm rewriting a lot of scenes and adding a lot of stuff. And I don't like to have things that would interfere in my brain. I can only read nonfiction or something way out of the genre that I'm in. So I haven't read much lately, unfortunately.
I told you, Lori,
You're
that
right,
like all
Jessica.
the other,
I'm the only one doing this.
we were talking about this yesterday. That all the other authors that I've ever talked to, whenever they're like revising and editing and stuff, they'll read stuff that's not within the same thing that what they're doing is something.
Yeah.
It's going to be something completely different.
Yeah, I can't. It just, I don't know. Maybe it puts me. Have to jump into a world that's not mine and it interferes with my thought. I don't know. Maybe. But when I write, I like to listen to music with words. But when I'm strictly editing, I cannot have music with lyrics. It has to be just like soundtracks and stuff. Because I guess there's like extra words flying around and I'm trying to find the best ones and I can't have any.
Oh, I can't play
there.
music with words and stuff when I'm reading. I have the Bookly app, so it's just like cafe noise. So it's like cups and change and the register going and the brewer. It's just noise.
Yeah. So I have my playlist for drafting or working on this book is from. You guys ever seen Manhunter? It was like this really old 80s movie about. It was one of the first Hannibal Lecter movies, based on the book Red Dragon. It has its flaws, but the soundtrack is freaking amazing and it's creepy as hell. So that's what I've been using for background. I did a lot of Traitors to soundtrack to Game of Thrones. I would go to YouTube and find like 4 hours worth of their Game of Thrones music and just put that in the background.
Oh wow!
Cat. Now he's on the bookshelf. So,
if I had to pick a way to describe the Traitor's Kiss series, the closest thing I can come up with is Tamora Pierce morphed with George R.R. Martin.
I've had that in some reviews, and that's like the biggest compliment I've ever gotten. Although I really like, there was one Kirkus review that was like gritty but not gratuitous violence or something like that. I was like, ooh, that's a compliment. But and they compared it to like a YA Game of Thrones, and that was like,
yeah, I think that's
really awesome to hear. But you don't do that yourself. Like when they first started pitching the first book to the public, they were like, it's like Jane Austen with espionage. And I was like, I would never have made that comparison, but thank you very much.
With George R.R. Martin thrown in, I think is important to note.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess there's no stabbing in Pride and Prejudice. So.
Military espionage.
Yeah, it's an interesting niche. I think they had a lot of trouble trying to figure out how to sell it because they were like, well, it's got this military stuff and there's some bio warfare in there. And then there's like arranged marriages and it's like a fantasy world, but there's no magic. So the librarians were like, where the hell are we going to shelve this? And they were like, that doesn't sound like it would work. And my publisher was like, it does, trust me. So I guess I'm just weird. And then when people ask me for writing advice, one of the things I usually say is just fill your picture. Like, your picture is like everything that you do in life and everything that you're interested in and everything that you know, and just fill your picture with experiences and knowledge, and then it's going to mix up and pour it right back out. And I like Jane Austen. I like Tamara Pierce. I like microbiology. I like sword fighting, and I like military stuff. And so when you mix it up and pour it out, this is what comes out.
I have to mention it, Erin. I've got to mention the fact you're a rocket scientist, because I like to brag that I know a rocket scientist who's also a YA author.
Well, yeah, and I've never really used it. I feel bad saying it, because now it's like, that was 20 years ago that I graduated. Oh my God, 20 years ago.
It's still true, though. It's still true.
No, legit 20 years ago.
It makes you feel old, doesn't it?
Yeah. So people often ask, like, how do you go from engineering to writing or storytelling? And really, I think building a story is like building a rocket, sort of, or building a building or a bridge or something. Because engineers think of everything in terms of cause and effect and forces that push in certain directions. And so that's what a story is. It has to have a sturdy ground and base. It has to have, everything's going to change, and there's going to be influences one way or another. There's a cat under me. I want to grab him. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there he is.
This is Snickers.
Aww.
And she's the bold one.
Aww.
I don't know where Doodle is. He's around here somewhere.
Well, guys, we have hit our 30 minutes.
Oh, it's just 30? Oh,
Already.
then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you email me, let me know that you're almost at your limit.
Yeah.
For more.
Can we get on again, or did they not let us do that?
No, because I only have 20 hours a month for
okay.
more, so
Damn it. Okay.
yeah. Unless you pay money.
Oh. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you. And
yeah, it's nice to see you, Erin.
Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah. Right.
Very excited about the new books.
Yes, that sounds so good.
Yeah. No pressure, right?
There's going to be some good.
And I have to read yours. I can't wait for the Shadow one.
Yeah, I can't wait down the road.
So
like comes down, I'm gonna have an Erin Beaty binge weekend. So that'll be fun.
Okay, I don't know how to turn this thing off. So.
See you online.
Meet us tomorrow at 7 p.m. for Kristen Lambert's book of The Boy in the Red Dress. So we will catch you guys later.
That sounds cool.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.